What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 22 for My Team Career Mode Season 1, Round number 7, the Monaco Grand Prix. We're approaching the halfway point in this season now, and we come to round 7, almost halfway, with Monaco. Looking at the R&D, we're still sitting just there with Aston Martin, literally once again right on top of each other. The midfield pack is ridiculously close now. I mean, look how close everybody is. It's like 5 teams there in the midfield, just absolutely on top of each other. So, yeah, the field is very, very close this season, that's for sure. But we get into qualifying here, and I mean, Monaco is a track that is one of the most difficult tracks, probably the most difficult track on the game, and somehow we made it through to Q2. This is the first time this season we've made it through to Q2, and we've done it in Monaco, of all places, which is absolutely ridiculous. On my next flying lap though, things didn't go quite as well, as I put the power down a bit too early and we spun round, but it didn't matter anyway. My lap before that was good enough to get me into Q2, which is just crazy. Lewis Hamilton showing some good pace here, going quickest in Q1, and yeah, some other surprises though. Alex Albon gets through to Q2, Sebastian Vettel also through, our teammate is out P21, Max Verstappen did not set a lap time for some reason, and George Russell also didn't make it out of Q1, so a couple of big shocks here, especially for Max Verstappen, considering he is well in this title fight. Now, I didn't make it out of Q2 into Q3, but I would never expect to. But to be honest, qualifying here went pretty well. I was a little bit worried going into this because, of course, this is Monaco. It's a terrifying track where you have to get everything right. But one thing that I did think here was that, you know, one of the big issues with our car at the moment is drag, is top speed, straight line speed. And as we slightly clipped the wall on this qualifying lap here, but this did still end up being my best lap, even though I clipped the wall, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, top speed is one of the worst parts of our car, but in Monaco, that's not such a big deal. You don't really need top speed. It's all about cornering at Monaco, and our car seems to be decent around the corners, so maybe that's why we've managed to sneak into Q2 this time out. And even with a very raggedy lap, you know, I've bumped the walls a few times. I quite badly damaged my front wing. I mean, the fact that it's come up as like the orangey yellow color means it's not great, but still, Q2 best lap time, and not dead last either. It's P13 for us. Vettel, a great lap time just ahead of us. Albon, P14 in the Williams. So it's not just that I've got my difficulty set wrong. This just seems to be where we are, and cars around us are also doing the same. Annoyingly, we don't get my sponsor goal of qualifying P15 or above, which I don't understand. But anyway, let's just get into the Monaco Grand Prix.
Formula One returns to Monte Carlo once again today, home to the world-famous Monte Carlo Casino that first opened in 1863. And of course, a certain road race first held in 1929. And there's no greater an occasion, no more valuable a win than the Monaco Grand Prix. The prestigious Circuit de Monaco, then, is not all that dissimilar today to the layout that made its debut almost a century ago. It's 2 miles and 19 corners through the streets of Monte Carlo. And although the average lap speed of around 93 miles per hour is the lowest of the season, the tiny margins for error make it the natural habitat of the safety car. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Bottas, Fernando Alonso and Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Ricciardo, Gasly and Esteban Ocon, Sainz, Vettel, Shaw and Albon, Norris, Joe, Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi, Liam Lawson, Verstappen, Tsunoda and George Russell ends our grid lineup. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Why don't we get things rolling by talking about George Russell? Looks like they have a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
Alright, so formation lap for the Monaco Grand Prix, and yeah, like I briefly mentioned before, even though I got P13 in qualifying, and my current sponsor goal is to qualify P15 or above, for some reason I didn't get the sponsor goal. So I don't know if that's a glitch with the game. It doesn't tell you till, I mean, unless it did tell me at the end of qualifying that I got it, and I didn't notice, but at the end of the race, it came up saying, no, you didn't get your sponsor goal, so I don't know if that's a glitch, or if I've just not seen it right and it came through after qualifying. I don't know, but anyway, a little bit annoying if that is the case that I didn't get that, because it's the first time we've actually done it. But we continue on here, and we get things underway for the Monaco Grand Prix. 5 lights are on, and they're out, and away we go. We get a good start on Sebastian Vettel here, alongside him going into turn 1. We're having a little look inside of Carlos Sainz as well, who's way down the back of the grid. He's not had a good qualifying either. A few of the top guys not having a great quali, as we're now side by side with Sebastian Vettel up the first part of this track, still side by side with him, trying to stay ahead. And also having a look on Sainz as well, because we can sniff a top 10 position up ahead of us, and if we can get moves done quickly in this race, then it's going to be very difficult for other people to get past. Of course, Monaco being the most difficult track on the calendar to make overtakes happen, so yeah, we want to try and make things happen as quick as we can, but unfortunately we couldn't get Sainz, and Sainz is actually now jumped way ahead of Ocon and Gasly, so now he's up into I think P9, and we're now kind of left behind these guys. We don't quite have the pace of Ocon, maybe Gasly though, because the AlphaTauri is around about there with us on R&D. And Gasly is on hard compound tyres, where pretty much everybody else is starting on medium, so it's going to be interesting to see how the race with Gasly goes on that different strategy. But we'll just continue on here, and to be honest, it's been a little bit of a scruffy first lap for me. After that good start, we've been a little bit all over the place for the first lap here. Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap on lap 1, so he stays in the lead, and that's something to talk about. Hamilton qualified on pole position for the Monaco Grand Prix. It's his and Mercedes' first pole of the season, so can they convert this into a win? I mean, if anywhere, if you're going to get a pole position anywhere, it's going to be here to convert the win. And at the moment, he is still leading from Charles Leclerc in second place. Of course, Leclerc doesn't have his backup of Carlos Sainz with him. Max Verstappen is way down at the bottom of the grid. Hamilton's teammate Russell is also way down the bottom of the grid. Perez, I think, is sitting in P3, but he doesn't seem to have the pace that these two guys do out front. So currently Hamilton is leading the way with Leclerc behind, and quite a decent gap to Perez. As we continue on here, and to be honest, not a whole lot happening. We're just kind of trying to keep the gap to Vettel and Albon behind. Both those guys doing an amazing job, especially Albon in what is quite clearly the slowest car on the grid. But obviously here at Monaco, it's more about driver skill than it is car skill, and those two drivers are definitely showing that they've got some great pace in their cars today. But us, we're doing okay. We're not really losing too much time to Ocon and Gasly up ahead. I think Ocon would be going quite a bit quicker, but he's been slowed down quite a bit by Gasly on those hard tyres. So we're managing to keep with them, but not really do a whole lot more. As we have a look at Max Verstappen and George Russell just behind him, still right down the back of the grid. I mean, I don't know what happened with Max. He just DNF'd out of qualifying. I don't know if he crashed or if he had an engine problem, but he did not complete a lap in qualifying. And then George Russell, I mean, he didn't get through to Q2 anyway, but it looks like he took a grid penalty, so that maybe that's why he didn't bother doing a great lap, because he was going to be starting at the back anyway. So yeah, not a great place to do it, Monaco though, let's be honest. I don't know why he couldn't have done it last time out, or wait till next time out at, I believe, Baku is the next race, so that should be a fun one. I do quite like Baku, although, you know, with these cars, with how bad our straight line speed is, it may not be the best race for us, but we'll have to wait and see. We're focusing on Monaco at the moment. The two Hasses doing a pretty good job, both running in the points next to each other. Kevin Magnussen, the lead Hass at the moment, he seems to have stepped up a little bit after a poor first few rounds. You know, he had the DNF in Bahrain. I think he just had a bad race at Saudi Arabia, and then he crashed out in Australia. I think from then though, he might have scored in Imola. I can't remember 100%, but last couple of races he has managed to score points, and he's now kind of finding his feet and getting back into F1 once again. And you can see we're skipping through the laps pretty quickly here because not a lot was happening. Now, one thing I was kind of hoping for with Monaco is because of how aggressive and, you know, crazy the drivers are in this game. You know, they go for moves a lot more often, little gaps, and just they're a lot more punchy as we come into the pits on lap 17. I was hoping that with Monaco that could cause some real drama, you know, somebody making the smallest mistake and crashing and causing a safety car and having absolute chaos happen. But unfortunately, that's not seems to have happened just yet. We're now halfway through the race, and really nothing has happened. There's not been any changing of positions further up the grid. There's not really been anything going on with us either. We've just kind of been stuck in this awful kind of middle ground point. However, we came into the pits a lap before Sebastian Vettel did, and well, we don't get an undercut on him because we were in front of him anyway, but we come out of the pits there well in front and can go off ahead on our more warmed up tyres. As we now have a look at Yuki Tsunoda, who's a couple of places up ahead of Huz, but he is the first retirement of the Monaco Grand Prix with a mechanical failure, so maybe this can spice things up as we come through behind just after it happened. But it looks like he's going to pull up into a place where a safety car or a virtual safety car is not needed. He's out of the way, so the race will just continue, which is a bit unfortunate because I was really hoping for something to spice up this race, because at the moment it's really quite dull. Well, something that's another chance to possibly spike up the race is the other AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. Like I mentioned before, he's doing an alternate strategy, the opposite strategy to what we are doing by what pretty much everybody else is doing, by starting on the hards and going on the mediums, whereas everybody else started on the mediums and has gone to the hards. Well, for Gasly it's not really worked out because we've managed to jump him in that pit stop phase, and although now he probably will be quicker than everybody else on those medium tyres, it's Monaco. He's going to really struggle to find his way through, because now he's not only behind me, he's behind Ocon, who he was ahead of before, and he's also behind Sebastian Vettel. So he's gone from scoring potentially a couple of points this race to now out of the points. We're still sitting in P11, we're losing a lot of time to the cars ahead. We're managing to just about stay a decent distance from the cars behind, mainly Sebastian Vettel, but you'll see in the bottom, well, the kind of middle right there, the fuel icon. I am drastically running out of fuel in this race, and it's one thing I have with this game. I don't know if anybody else has this issue, but some races, like, I'll fuel my car generally, like say this is a what, 39 lap race, I'll put 39.4, 39.5 laps of fuel in the car. On some tracks that is plenty, and I'll actually have more fuel than I need at the end of the race, even if there's no safety car. On other tracks, this one has been the worst of it so far. I will not have enough fuel. By about lap 10, lap 11, we were running out of fuel. Well, not running out of fuel, but we were at the point where the game was saying you're not going to have enough fuel to the end. And yeah, by this point, I'm doing a bit of fuel saving. It's not the end of the world here, because honestly I can pretty much run out of fuel and just keep everybody behind me because they can't overtake me anyway, but it's still super annoying, and I don't understand. Like, literally, we had half a lap of extra fuel when I started this race. We end this race with more than half a lap not enough fuel. So we've used a whole extra lap and a bit's fuel somehow, and I mean, I'm trying to save fuel at the end here, so we do get it down a little bit towards the end. And you might notice there as well, I've also got some damage on my front wing, which I don't really know where that came from. A few little touches with the wall probably, but there's not really anything to show you at the end of this race. We come through, Lewis Hamilton wins the Monaco Grand Prix, so it's Mercedes' first win of the season. So maybe that's a turning point for them, happening pretty early on here, only round 7. We're going to come home P11 after a very dull Monaco Grand Prix. It was looking promising with qualifying, but then in the race, we just had to be managing fuel for half the race, and it just didn't work out at all. Pretty poor result.
That's it then for another nail-biting Monaco Grand Prix. We were on the edge of our seats the whole time, but they've come through to take a stunning victory. Well, Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today, but what set them apart from the rest?
But they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take the top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So here we go, Mercedes are back. Lewis Hamilton wins the Monaco Grand Prix, his first win, Mercedes' first win of this season. Charles Leclerc comes home for P2, so he couldn't get past Hamilton, but this is Monaco, remember, so I'm not really surprised. And then Sergio Perez comes home P3 because basically Verstappen, Sainz and Russell were all completely out of it. I was really hoping that this season, in this game, Monaco might actually become interesting again. You may, if you've seen my F1 2021 My Team videos, the 3 times we were in Monaco they were all pretty dull races as well. This was possibly the dullest of them all. Nothing really happened. We got P11, so we were 1 point away from points. 1 position away from points, but we were way, like 25 odd seconds, I think, behind Ocon in the end. And just because of that fuel saving thing, which really ruined our race. Maybe we could have had potential to get a top 10 finish if we didn't have to be fuel saving, but yeah, ultimately it's really quite a dull race. The result of P11 doesn't look bad, but it's just a really dull race, and I think we had potential to do more here. Constructors, not really any changes apart from Haas moving ahead of Alfa Romeo for P5. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.